Today's business English demo lesson is all about negotiations. We're going to talk about idioms that you can use in negotiation. We're going to talk about direct versus indirect language. We're going to talk about conditional phrases that you can use in a negotiation. And we're going to talk about verbs, nouns, and adjectives. That way you're fully prepared for your next negotiation. So if that's something you're interested in, whether you're a job seeker looking to negotiate your raise or promotion, or you are a freelancer or solopreneur and you're looking to send out negotiations with your proposals and pitches, this is the best course for you. So stay tuned to find out more. Hey, I'm Michael with Michael's Business English. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Michael Vincon, a former six-figure data analyst turned ESL instructor and career coach. I help non-native English speakers like you with your work life and career increase your value. If you're new here, on this channel, we talk about communications, business English, and career development. So if that's something you're into, make sure you like and subscribe, and all the links mentioned in this video can be found in the description box below. All right, welcome to the business English class on business negotiation. Today, we're going to cover common vocabulary used during negotiations. We're also going to cover common business negotiation idioms. Get down to business, meet halfway. We're going to practice being polite, including using modal verbs for politeness, the past tense to be polite, and other common ways to be polite. And we're going to practice the use of conditional phrases in negotiation, as long as on condition that. All right, let's begin. All right, I want you to guess these negotiation idioms based on the context of the sentence. Right, so here we go. The first one is, we don't have a lot of time, so we need to get down to business. What do you think that means? Right, don't worry, we're going to cover the definition shortly, but the goal is to get you to warm up, to kind of get your brain rolling so we can get you thinking, get you active, right? This is an active participating course. There is no passive, there's no sitting down playing with the phone. Get in here, let's get to work, let's get this handled, guys. How about this one? Let's have a show of hands. Who supports the proposal? What do you think this idiom means? I think that this is a win-win situation for the buyer and seller. What does that sound like? What could that possibly mean? Can I have this in writing? That's a good one. Why would someone want to have something in writing? Right? I'm trying to get you to think about this. Why would we have this idiom? What does that mean? Right? Why would someone want this to have? Why would someone want to have this in writing? Right? So here's some more idioms to try and guess. Right? So, can we agree to meet halfway? Why would we need to meet halfway? Meet halfway to what? Right? Like, what do you think that means? Right? Let's stick to the point. I don't want to waste time. Well, why would sticking to the point, what does that have to do with wasting time or not wasting time? Right? I don't want to waste time. What does stick to the point have to do with that? Thomas, do you have anything to add? Why is Thomas being called out here? Why is someone asking Thomas if he has anything to add? Add what exactly? I wonder what that means. It took over a month of negotiating before they finally closed the deal. Right? So what does that mean? Like, look at the word finally. Finally, what? Over a month of negotiating. Like, what does that mean? What do you think that means? Okay, here's some practice now. Now we're actually going to go define these words, like I promised. So, get down to business. Does that mean guaranteeing a favorable option for everyone involved? Does that mean compromise? Does that mean raising hands to vote for or against something? Or does that mean to begin to negotiate or to conduct business? What do you think it means based on the previous slides, right? So it's actually to begin to negotiate or to conduct business. Get down to business. Get down, right? That's interesting, right? Get down to business, right? Typically, we say get down to business when we want to stop playing games. We want to stop the small talk and say, let's take this seriously. Let's begin. Let's do business, right? How about show of hands? What does that one mean? Show of hands does not mean guaranteeing a favorable option. How about a compromise or raising hands to vote for or against something? So you might be able to derive the fact that because we're raising hands, that might be a show of hands because raising hands, we're showing something. A show of hands is another way of saying everyone raise your hands. Now, sometimes you don't actually have to actually do raising your hands. It can just be speaking up. So if you're doing something online, for example, you would say show of hands and people would comment on the post. How about win-win situation? Win-win situation, is that a compromise or is that guaranteeing a favorable option for everyone involved, right? So win-win, win, what does that mean, right? And two wins together, right? Win usually means something good happens. So favorable, and because there's two wins, that would imply everyone, multiple people are involved, right? Win-win for me, win-win for you, right? How about be halfway, right? So it's the last one. It's actually compromise. Halfway, compromise. Compromise means to do something different than you originally planned. And typically when we say meet halfway, it means we're not gonna be able to do exactly as we wanted, so we're gonna have to change the plans. Do you have any questions about this so far? Okay, let's talk about being polite. And in negotiations, we can be polite by using indirect language and adverbs of degree. Barely, hardly, fairly, rather, relatively. So when we say polite, what we also mean is direct versus indirect language. So if you're familiar with the cultures of different countries, some countries typically use more direct language. This product is very expensive. Like calling a spade, saying what it is, saying the product is very expensive. Like there's no question about it. It's just absolutely the product's expensive, right? Indirect is showing it's not an absolute thing. It's not 100%. It's not precision, right? It's possible, right? To be honest, this product seems rather expensive. So what you're suggesting is that it's expensive, but you're not saying it is. You're saying it seems expensive to me. It's not. Seems is not absolute. Seems is not like guaranteed. Seems does not mean 100%. Seems is kind of like close to. It's like, oh, this seems expensive to me. It's my opinion. How about modal verbs to be polite? We use modal verbs, to make statements to sound more polite. Perhaps we should. Perhaps it might be a good idea. Here's an idea we could consider. I would like to add one more thing. Wouldn't it be better? See how we can conjugate with would not? So I want you to practice using modal verbs. I want you to take these statements and rephrase it as a question so it can be more polite. So instead of direct language, it is necessary to decrease the price. How can you rephrase that? Right? So how about instead of it is necessary to decrease the price, how about might we decrease the price? Right, see how I did that? How about the next one? I have more to say. How would you rephrase that? What's a way you could say that? All right, I'm going to go through this section real quick to sort of show you some negotiation verbs, adjectives, and nouns, right? So you have compromise, consult, recap, reconvene, interrupt. So do you know what these words mean first and foremost? If not, we need to address that. But let's try this out. Like, I'm sorry to blank, but I want to update you on the latest developments before you continue. What verb closely represents this context? Is it compromise? I'm sorry to compromise, but I want to update you. Sorry to consult, but I'm sorry to recap, but so on and so forth. Let's take a break and blank after lunch. Right now, some of these words, these are pretty interesting words. I don't see reconvene used very often. It's kind of an awkward word, but I do see it pretty often when I was working as a data analyst. So this might be new vocabulary for you, right? Same thing with consult. I don't see that very often either. Or recap. Recap is used pretty common actually in the workplace. So just keep that in mind. How about negotiation nouns, like tactics, provisions, interest, contingency, consensus? So interest, people might know interest as like interest rate, like how much money I pay interest on my card. I have a huge interest rate on my loan. Interest actually has a different meaning here. Interest in this case, interest in as a noun in business context can mean I like it. So let me find a word that uses that. Here's a good one. It is in our best blank to partner with Smith and Brothers. Right, I want to show you this one. So this one's actually interest. It is in our best interest to partner with Smith and Brothers. It is in our best interest to partner with Smith and Brothers. Another way of saying interest would be to say, this is good for us. Instead of saying best interest, we could say, it is good for our business to partner with Smith and Brothers. You see how I did that? I wanted to show you that example because I know interest is kind of a weird word. Let me do one more. Let me go through adjectives. So you have unanimous, binding, tactful, mutual, face-to-face, and non-negotiable. Ooh, wow, we got some really fancy words here. Like, geez, unanimous, binding, tactful, face-to-face, non-negotiable, right? So again, the partnership is based on blank, respect, and understanding. What is the best adjective for that? The partnership is based on tactful respect and understanding? Is it based on face-to-face respect and understanding? Like, if you're not sure what these words are, you should go and look up these words. You should go on Google and check them out, right? Okay, I just want to show one more thing before we go to the homework, which is conditional phrases. We often use conditional phrases such as long as, on condition that, provided that, and supposing in negotiation, right? So conditional phrase means that one thing is true as long as another thing is true, right? So conditional phrases are followed by subject-verb clauses. So here's some examples. On condition that you offer a 5% discount, we could agree to place a large order. See what happened there? All right, let me show you. On condition that you do X, you do this, then we agree to place a larger order. You see how that happened? A conditional is an agreement between two statements. So on condition that you do X, we will do Y. We could agree to do that, provided that you supply all the tools. Like, I will do X if you do Y. I will do this if you do that. Right? Supposing we decrease the price, what should we expect from you, right? On your end. Interested. What should we expect on your end? If we decrease the price, what will you do? Suppose we decrease the price, what will you do in return? That's how a conditional statement works. Tit for tat, right? Okay, let's talk about the homework, right? So as a reminder, all students who enroll in lessons with Michael's Business English get access to homework that can be done online from any internet-enabled device, such as a phone or a computer. And all homework is graded and instructed with their feedback, with private instructor feedback based on what the instructor knows about the student. So for example, I have one student who constantly struggled with articles, right? So using a, and the, definite versus indefinite articles. So that kept coming up, and I kept reminding her, hey, just so you know, like, you have problems with articles. We noticed this in the past, right? And that we use that feedback to adjust the learning plan in our lessons. So that way we make sure students are getting the feedback and the lessons they need right away to improve their communications as fast as possible. But without further ado, let's go over this homework. So this section, read each question and select the best answer based on choices provided. You wanted to compromise with someone, which expression would you use? Let's meet halfway. Let's close the deal. Let's get down to business. Let's see a show of hands. Do you remember this idiom? Right, remember this is one of the first things we covered. So go back through this lesson, go back to the beginning, and review the idioms that we talked about if you have questions. And if you'd like, you can also go on Google and look up the meaning. Because remember, the mind learns through repetition, and you will learn faster through immersion. So how about this one? If you wanted to measure agreement or consensus on a topic, which expression would you use? Right, measure agreement or consensus. So here's an interesting one. Like, what does consensus mean? Right? That's probably a good time to go on Google and start looking up these words, to look up these vocabularies. See, what does this word mean? Let's see a show of hands. Let's close the deal. Let's get down to business. Let's meet halfway. If you wanted to begin a negotiation, remember, begin a negotiation. That sounds familiar, doesn't it? Which expression would you use? Let's get down to business. Let's close the deal. Let's stick to the point. Let's get it in writing. All right, let's go to the next page. So now the next section is write responses to the people below. Write full sentences and use vocabulary from the lesson. You are negotiating a new office lease. The landlord of the building has sent you the lease agreement and the rent is almost double what you expected to pay. Reply to the landlord politely requesting a reduced rent till now. So this is a good time to remind you about the direct versus indirect. You remember that lesson? This is expensive versus this seems rather expensive, right? So which one should you use? Now, that in some cases it might be based on their culture. It might make more sense to be direct. So in the US, you could probably be a little bit more direct. You might want to be more indirect. That's my personal opinion. But in some countries, you might actually want to go direct. Say, this is really expensive. It depends on you. Depends on the context. That is an example you can use to help you out a little bit. Now here's one more example, one more takeaway from the homework. Let's see what we got here. You are in the final stages of negotiating an important contract. You have been in the meeting room for 3 hours and everyone's tired. Jeez. The head of the party you are negotiating with says he must leave in another 3 minutes, though you believe another hour is required to finalize the contract. Think of 3 polite ways to ask the person to remain in the meeting for longer. This is an interesting exercise for you to do. Don't forget to go back through the lesson, go through the vocabulary, and do your best. Don't worry about making mistakes. Just do the best you can. Feel free to use Grammarly to check your spelling. And don't forget that instructors give feedback on the homework. That's going to help you out. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this demo lesson. I hope to see you guys in class. Talk soon. Thanks.